Why, hello, Rachel. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for being here. I am beyond pumped to have you on the show. So, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really honored and grateful and excited. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, me too. So, I know you literally just arrived back from Poland from a Wim Hof retreat that you led, which I mean, we're going to get into that. But first, I want to know, where are you located now and how are you doing having just arrived
Yes.
back?
I'm right now in Germany in the most southern part of Germany in the Alps in a small little village called Sandhofen. I'm here with my
Mm.
husband, Michael. And yeah, like you said, yesterday we drove back from Poland. So taking it easy today and excited to share and to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we have much to talk about. I'm wondering, this leads me into my first question. What led you into the work that you offer today? I know that's a big question. So you can choose where you start that one.
It's a great question and it's a big question. So thank you. Yeah, many things, but primarily, I have quite an intense energy. I always have since I was a little kid. I was always like a very rambunctious, curious kid. And yeah, sometimes that intense energy didn't really sit well in the environment that I was in.
Mm.
I grew up in like a really traditional family. They come from Uzbekistan and they're like a small tribe called Bukharians, and beautiful people and a beautiful culture, but also I think like especially as a woman, it, there was some things which a woman cannot do, which I always did. Like I always push the
Mm.
boundaries. So for example, like we had Shabbat dinners every Friday. In my culture, there's you drink wine on Shabbat, and there's like
Mm.
a top cup and a bottom cup in our culture, and the men drank from the top and the women drank from the bottom. And it was kind of this idea that like, like the women are under the men, and I always questioned this, and I was like, well, this
Mm.
doesn't really sit with me. I was always like, no, this doesn't work. And so that also led to some issues because I was always pushing against my family and pushing against society. And so yeah, it basically led to me trying to find my own answers and trying to find community where I felt like I could be myself. And it
Mm.
took me many years, really many, many years to figure out who I really am. And yeah, along the way, I also found a lot of resources that helped me just to get an idea of like my curiosity for the world. Like I became a nurse and I left quite early on because I felt I felt a little bit restricted in the nursing world. And I went traveling. I hiked for 1 month in Ladakh without a tent, which is probably not a very good idea. And yeah, like climbed up icy mountains. I've sat with shamans and just like, yeah, you know, explored different avenues. And I think that's really, really what led me to where I am today.
Mm. And I also wonder within that, and I love this kind of rule breaker, kind of disruptor energy that you've got, the black sheep, right?
Yeah.
The explorer black sheep that needs to go and find her own way through the wilderness and question everything. Because honestly, how do we evolve? How do we get anywhere without asking these types of questions, even if they're not
Mhm,
comfortable for our family and our friends?
mhm.
So I can relate to that one for sure.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people can. Yeah.
Got to ask those questions. And so I'm wondering as well, within all of that exploration, did you feel it was coming from a place of, curiosity or pain, or a combination of both?
Yeah. Hey, that's a really, really good question. I think in the beginning, it was just like I had a really big curiosity. And I think then because there was a pushback, I kind of rebelled. And
Mm.
it was more from like a place of pain that I was looking for something else. And it also led me to a lot of really not good places. Like
Uh-huh.
I definitely ended up with people, for example, in relationships or doing things that weren't really sitting well with me. But yeah, I think we have to go into the darkness to find the light. And that was kind of what I had to do to find who really I am.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. The journey from the darkness back to the light and all of the shady characters and places and corners that we meet ourselves, right?
Yes.
Kind of wondering sometimes, oh, how did I actually find myself here?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
so I'm wondering within that, when did you begin to feel more comfortable in your skin? I don't know if that's the right wording, but more kind of at peace with who you are.
Hmm. Another great question.
Mm,
Yeah, when I really think about it, I honestly think it wasn't until the last 5 years, probably 5 years ago, where I really felt connected on a deeper level.
mm,
I think like it's so interesting because society really like also puts this thing on us of how we should live our lives. And
that's right.
for me, it was so important, you know, like, okay, I need a career, I need a partner and all these things, you know, but all the things that I was looking for on the outside didn't really fill that for me. And I really think until I like really, yeah, like really went as dark as I could in the last 5 years, I really found out, okay, like actually this is who I am, and who I am is maybe not what everybody else can understand, but it's who I am. And it was, yeah, really in the last 5 years. I think in the last 2 years, like stepping into the Wim Hof method, which really helped me like release a lot of old conditioning
Mm,
and really feel like, oh wow, there's a lot of power inside of me, and that's not bad. That's actually good. That I started to really then like settle into myself and settle into my power and settle into like where I am now, basically.
Thank you for sharing this idea around, you know, we're not necessarily scared of our darkness, we're more scared of our light. And
Mhm,
that, I mean, it can definitely be equal at
mhm,
times, but this idea of stepping into our own power and how
mhm.
freeing that can be once kind of we can truly just welcome in all parts. And I think that that comes from going into these places, that comes from these deep explorations, from seeking, and
Yep,
not everyone wants to do that kind of seeking. It's a certain amount of takes a certain kind of person to want to go
yeah.
into those different corners to be able to say at the end of it all, when is it really done? Like, come with me, I'll take you on a journey and show you where I've been,
Yeah. I
you
really
know?
appreciate that you say that. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's exactly that what you said, that when you know, I was always so afraid of the energy that I had, you know, and like to really then accept like, wow, this is like a freaking gift. Like there's energy inside of me. And if I am not afraid of it, but I
Mhm.
allow it, and like you said also, which is like allowing all parts of myself, which is also the pain and also like the parts of myself that, I mean, we're humans. There's so much of us that is insanely insane, and when you just accept that that's there and allow it, it's like, wow, another part of you can really shine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like we have these little pockets of like superpower energy within
Mhm,
us. And when we can welcome back in these kind of disowned parts, we
mhm,
free up that energy reserve and we can see it for not as, the thing that we were once scared of, but this new
mhm.
beautiful aspect that really has been in our corner the entire time, being like, come on, just look at me. Like, please give me a hug, or let's go for tea. Let's get
Yeah.
out in the cold together. Don't forget me. Don't leave me behind, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually reminds me like of just being a kid, you know? Like I
Yeah.
think when you look at kids playing, they're
Hmm.
like really happy and they don't care about the other bullshit. They're just playing and having fun. And then we leave that part of ourselves and like, oh no, now we have to be serious and like, you know,
Yeah.
do all these serious things. But actually there's like this child inside of us that's like, hello,
Yeah.
let's play, you know? And I think also
Mm.
just taking that and going with that is also a big part of it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I think also, especially when it comes to play as adults, I think one of the reasons that we lose that ability is because of, yeah, the seriousness and the lack of comfortability that we have within our own skin, because
Mm,
it takes a certain amount of, yeah, safety, comfortability, knowing who you are to be vulnerable enough to play. And kids typically, unless they've had a pretty, you know, troublesome upbringing, and even still, this element of play and this element of curiosity that, yeah, it shines through, and it's what makes life so much easier to manage. I'm sure that even when you're leading people up a mountainside, they're like freezing, and pushing their edges. Someone's got to tell a joke at some point, or someone's got to go and roll in the snow or whatever, just
oh,
to bring in that element of let's not take this too serious.
yeah, 100%. It's exactly it. It's in all the retreats, actually. Like, it's so beautiful that
Amazing.
you said this. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm just thinking back to the retreat, and like the one thing everybody said that they want to take away with them is being able to sing more and being able to dance more, and it's like,
Mm,
oh, this is such a simple thing, but it brings us so much joy. And when we're doing something hard, which life brings us so many challenges, to just find like, oh, the little joy or like the little play in it, it can really change a whole situation.
yeah, it's in our bones. It's in our nature to want to be playful and to be able to make light out of dark situations. And
Mhm.
we need that. We need to be able
Absolutely.
to toggle between those two worlds, because something that um, is hard can quickly become overwhelming, or we can self sabotage when we don't have that ability to get curious about that edge, to get playful about that edge.
Mhm.
And so I love that that's part of the retreats. Of course, singing would be, of course, playing around and dancing, of course, community. It brings up such an important element of, even within trauma therapy and healing from trauma, right? We typically don't heal in isolation, but we do heal in community because so many of our wounds are relational.
Mhm.
you know we got these wounds here as a result of being in relationship with other human beings, and we have this ability to access joy and happiness and excitement and all of these things because of the same, well, not the same relationships, but other relationships.
Healthy
And so,
relationships. Yeah.
yeah, healthy relationships. And so I want to know more about how did you even find Wim Hof? I know I first learned of Wim Hof. It was like 2016, 2017. And my husband and I did an online Wim Hof course. And so we
Nice.
learned the very basics, and we were, doing the breathing and getting in the shower. And then of course my moon time would come up, and I'm like, I'm not doing any of that shit while I'm menstruating. No,
Total sense.
no, no, no. So it
I
hits a
feel
little
you on
bit
that.
different. Yeah, it hits a little bit differently for our female bodies, definitely during that time of the month. But anyway, I'd love to know when you first learned and how you knew that this was going to be a path that you were going to follow.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for saying this about the women and having your cycle, because it's a really important part of the method that's missed, and we can go to that later. But yeah, basically, I came to Germany in 2018 to do a master's, very much in the mind. I was like, yeah, I'm going to tackle mental health with science. And so I went to Germany and I did my master's. And don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it and I learned a lot. And at the end, I was doing my master's thesis, COVID hit. I was living in like a really small room with a lot of other students. It was a really interesting time. And I accidentally, just a friend of mine asked me, because she was having an issue, if I could support her. And so I went to, there was like a community house. And I had never heard of the Wim Hof method. Actually, I never heard of Wim Hof. I myself like dabbled in the cold because we're from Canada and it's just cold. So I would end up hiking and then being like, ooh, there's like a nice lake. I want to jump in it. So I did it anyway, a little bit
Mm.
here and there. But at this house, I was talking about my thesis and I was talking about mental health. And my husband now, Michael, he actually was like, "Oh, have you ever heard of the Wim Hof method?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Okay, really, would you like to try it?" So we breathed together. And then he's like, "You know, I have a chest freezer in the basement. Do you want to go into the basement and try an ice bath?" And me being super curious, I was like, "Oh my God, yes. Like, you have a chest freezer in your basement? This is amazing." So we went to his basement. It was actually like in the cellar. It was kind of creepy, but cool anyway. And he had a giant chest freezer. And I went in and wow, I came out and it was like a game changer for me. Like, I've never felt so connected with myself. I've never felt so grounded with also so much energy at the same time. And I was like, "You are onto something. Like, what is this?" And I started like going to a lot of workshops, a lot of retreats. I was lucky because he would just invite me to all of them. So I just was like, I'm fully in. Yeah. And slowly with the breathing and with the cold, it really like started to do something that I've never experienced before. And I decided that I wanted to do my training in it. And then I became an instructor. And since then, I've just been doing that full time. So yeah, it was pretty like I jumped right in. I mean, I felt it's also interesting, right? Because we learn about things, and I think with the mind, it's one thing. And this is something that I really learned in the last couple of years. Like, someone can tell you something is really good, and you're like, "Okay, yeah, like I want to try that." But with the Wim Hof method, it was such a it's so simple and it's so profound that it was just like, this is amazing. I need to explore this further.
Hmm. I just want to circle back to you saying, I went to Germany to learn about mental health and the mind, and of course, not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's beautiful. But I like how you're just immediately let to the body. It's just
Mhm.
like, actually, we're going to go here.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, I tend to agree the most simple approaches to mental health and to physical health seem to be the ones that are overlooked because it's like, oh, it
Mhm.
couldn't be that simple.
Mhm.
Couldn't be as easy as me just taking an ice bath or coming from a somatic lens, a somatic experience lens. It couldn't be as easy as just being present
Mhm.
to what I'm feeling right now,
Yeah, and it really
my
is.
sensation. And it often can be. And that doesn't mean that it's that doesn't mean it's easy as we talk about.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that it doesn't require courage and grit and coming up against yourself in
Mhm.
all the ways. But what it
Mhm.
does mean is that you get to come out in this clear headed, like, oh, yeah, it's hard to describe for all you listening who haven't done any cold plunges before. It's kind of hard to describe for me, it was very productive. I would get out of the water and immediately just be like, bam, 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 bam. I had all these ideas and all this creativity. And it just felt
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know, some sort of gunk had been cleared out of my head,
Mhm. That's
and
such a
I,
good way of putting it.
yeah, right. There was a certain clarity that came with that. What I will say is that when I was in the depths of what I consider to be like a pretty traumatic time in my life, the going all into a cold plunge actually it felt a little bit overwhelming. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit. Because for me, because when my system was dysregulated and there was a lot of activation happening within me already, that wasn't exactly the medicine that I needed during that time. But then once I was feeling a little bit better and a little bit more in my body, going back to the cold was just so incredible. So incredible.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
For those of you wishing to dive into the world of somatic healing and get a taste of what it's like to discover the wisdom of your body, I'm offering $100 off my signature course, Reclaiming Resilience, to the listeners of this episode. It is a self paced 5 week course that teaches you how to be with big emotions and sensations. It expands your capacity for more joy, more love, and more pleasure, while you also learn how to access your boundaries, intuition, and build safety within your body. Essentially, you'll be learning how to harness the power of your nervous system and welcome in more clarity, authentic communication, and fulfilling relationships. In the program, we are changing the way that we perceive ourselves, our patterns, and our limiting beliefs, as well as finding our unique voice. Use the code all caps feel good at checkout. And for those of you who are seeking one on one support, I also offer coaching and therapy packages and one on one sessions. I'll pop all of that information in the show notes. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying, because I mean, when you go into the cold, it's such a strong impulse, right? It's such a strong force. It's like there's nothing that wakes you up so intensely like the cold. Is just so primal. And you also, like, you can fight it in a way, but you cannot really fight it also when you're in it. It's like, okay, I need to let go, I need to relax, I need to breathe. Like, it's just it kind of like forces the body to learn how to let go and how to relax. And I think if you're already in like a really heightened state, if you're already in like if you're, for example, like you said, in a traumatic state, and you're going in the cold, it could be too much, because actually the cold is such a strong force. It's also like releasing tons of things in the body, and it's also
Right.
putting you in a sympathetic state more,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
and I think if you're already like there, it could be too much.
Yeah.
What I think is really nice, especially for people who might also be in that state, is to start with the breathing, because I
Yes.
think it's also something that's really overlooked in the Wim Hof method,
Mm-hmm.
because people are always like, oh, the cold, oh, the cold. But like, for example, when I do a workshop, we're in the cold for 2 minutes, and the workshop is 8 hours. So what are we doing for the whole other 8 hours? There's many other things that are going on. And I think the breath work is just incredible, because it actually brings the body back down and it
Mm.
regulates you. So if you're in this state of like being a little bit too excited, or the body is over regulate over, I don't know exactly what the word would be, but like,
Hyper
yeah,
aroused. Yeah.
hyper aroused.
Hyper.
Yeah,
Yeah. High alert. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then when
Nice.
you do the breathing, it really brings you down, and then you could go into the cold, and then you
Mm.
can allow the body to also like feel this impact. And I also think for people, like, we've actually had people who have experienced intense trauma at our retreats. We
Mm-hmm.
had some Israeli soldiers who came to one of our retreats in Poland, and one of the
Mm.
guys really had, like, he really didn't want to go into the cold, because he actually had been trained as a soldier with the cold. But what
Whoa.
was different is that they used the cold in a way to train them to just like deal with things, and it was more like go in the cold to get stronger. But I think if you have like a deep awareness when you're in the cold, it can be extremely healing. It's like how
Mm.
you are doing something, right? You could do something with two different mindsets, but
That's right.
what is the intention, first of all, with what you're going into,
Yeah.
and where's the awareness?
I love that you brought that in. It's just so important because I think, yeah, so often people think that, you get into the cold, you just, you just jump in. No, there's a whole prep phase of
There is, yes.
breathing, and I think one thing that was offered, which I really enjoyed, was to do hands,
Yeah,
feet, and face
yeah,
immersion. If doing the whole body was like not there for you in that particular moment, and knowing that it could change at any
yeah,
time. Maybe one day the cold isn't, you're not feeling it, but you've learned
totally.
to regulate through the breath. And that's such a gift. Again, that's already in us. It's just there, right here, waiting to be tapped in. And I mean, could you imagine without the breath going and doing these types of retreats? It wouldn't be possible, I don't think, for so many people without that breath training first. So I love that you brought that into the fold, being able to change someone's kind of perception like with the soldiers. That's how beautiful is that? You learned to use this method in this way for this reason. Let's reframe this now, because this can now be an ally to you in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
And in somatic terms, that's like uncoupling work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thank
It's
you
a
for
whole
sharing that
reframe.
story.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. It's a whole reframe. Yeah. And I also just wanted to add one more thing because I was just thinking like it's also a gradual process,
That's
right?
right.
Like if you just go into the cold
Yeah.
without any prep, without any training, it is going to be traumatic. Like it's
Yeah.
intense. I mean,
It's so
it's
intense.
cold and if it's winter, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's important that like when people come to our retreats, they practice taking cold showers for 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, and then the
Mm-hmm.
body adapts. And it's so much nicer because then you go in the cold and you're like, okay, I already know this feeling. I already know these sensations. I already know how to deal with the breath. And it's much different than just let's go right in without any training. And I think this is also something, yeah, unfortunately, people really want to just try things and not giving the time beforehand to really prepare can
Mm-hmm.
really be it can really be like detrimental because then you have a bad experience and it's not going to do what it actually does, which is it really heal you. It really heals the body.
Mm-hmm. And so this last retreat in Poland, so you mentioned that it was intense. it was
It was
it,
intense.
it was a hard one.
It was
So
intense.
yeah, like I'd love to hear more about how does one prepare to get to that stage where you're hiking up a mountain and you ain't got no shirt on and you're going for it. So if you could walk us through that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, anybody can do it. And
Amazing.
I think, sorry.
I just said amazing. Yes, we
Yes,
can all do it.
everybody. Yes, yes. I mean, that's the beauty of the method. It is for everybody. It's just the mindset that you have and the willingness that you have. And so people have come who like they've never done cold training, but of course they prepare beforehand, taking showers, these
Yes.
kind of things. But before we hike a mountain without clothes on,
Yeah,
you're
that part.
there. You're there for many days. And yeah,
Mm.
there's so many things that we're doing. I mean, we do multiple breath work sessions. So we're working with the breath, we're getting the body in a really good state. I think truly the key is the community. And it's something we see over and over and
Mm.
over, just like creating a safe space where people can feel safe, where they can share and feel supported. And then that's like really the recipe because you're going up this mountain, you have people behind you like cheering you on, and like I'm safe, that. Of course, you need to also train the mind, and also you really need to believe in yourself. Like
Mm.
I can do this, because if you go in there thinking like there's no way I'm going to go up this mountain, probably you're going to struggle. But if you can find the belief in yourself that I'm going to do this, and whatever happens along the way, I'm going to trust that I can handle it, then you can do it, right?
Yeah. My goodness, the mind plays such an important role,
Yeah,
and when
it's
the body and the mind are working together, life can become limitless
mm-hmm. It can be fun.
and
Life can be
and
so much
so
fun.
fun
Yes.
and so much fun and so much
Yeah.
adventure. And how many different places have you traveled to, over the past 2-3 years in either learning or teaching the Wim Hof method and all of the different types of community that you've met along the way? Like, what a beautiful journey.
Yeah. I feel very, very grateful that I can do this work. I was just telling Michael because yeah, like doing these retreats is like it doesn't feel like work. I get
Hmm.
so much from it. I mean, like, of course, we're there, we're holding the space, we're giving a lot of energy, but like what you get back from it is so beautiful. Like hearing people just sharing vulnerably, like seeing people who come in the beginning and they're like closed off or like a little bit scared, or yeah, just like a lot of people have a shell, you know, we have a shell on because life gets tough and you're like, okay, like I need to protect myself. And then you see this huge transformation at the end where they're like literally beaming and so
Mm,
excited and so happy and so open. It's like my passion in life is that everybody can feel that way, that everybody can
mm,
feel fully alive and feel fully connected. And to see that in the retreats, it's like it's such a gift. It's really like it makes me so full and it makes my life so much fuller.
mm. People experiencing their own vitality. That's juicy right there. That's juicy, and there's no way not to get like amped up by it when you're witnessing someone, especially at the end of the retreat, or any time during the retreat, just fully in themselves with this deep reverence and respect for what they're capable of. Holy shit, you know,
Mhm.
it
Holy
would be
shit, it's really
holy
incredible.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And it's also funny because it's not only about like how strong you are. That's a big part
Hmm.
of it, of course, like to step into your strength, but it's also like the vulnerability plays
That's
such a
right.
big part, just like letting go and opening up and allowing people to also see you in your sadness or see you in your pain. It's like
Yeah.
then you feel like, okay, like I can do anything now because all parts of me are seen. Like let's go up this mountain. Like nothing can stop me. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah. It's like also, you're continually pushing that edge,
Hmm.
continually coming up against yourself and allowing, yeah, more depth, more vulnerability, more connection to not only yourself, but to the community. And I'm sure as a result of these retreats, there's probably some like lifetime friendships being formed as well.
Absolutely. I mean, like really, I felt at the beginning of this retreat, the people were beautiful, and we were saying hi to each other. And when I left the retreat, it really felt like we are a family. It was
Hmm.
very clear, like we have each other's back. Also, when you do something hard like that together,
Hmm.
it's such a gift because you really feel held by people.
That's
I'm
right.
thinking of there was this one participant. Usually we have like 50-50 men and women, but in this retreat somehow it was men, like a lot
Hmm.
of men, and there was me and another woman. And when we hiked the mountain, she was doing so amazing, and at one point, like, she felt, okay, it's a lot because it's really like the wind is 100 kilometers per
Oh,
hour and
God.
it was wet and there was like hail hitting us. And when you're not wearing a shirt, it's
Oh my
really, really
God.
intense. Like it's just
Yeah.
like beyond anything. Like it's hard to even explain it in words because it's so intense. And I think for a moment she felt like, okay, like I don't want to hold the group back. We always think this, like, I don't want to be the one to hold anybody back. And it was so beautiful because all the guys, they grabbed her and they're like, let's go together. Like, we are doing this together. It's not about where we go, it's about like the fact that we do this as a group. And afterwards, like the feeling that we had was just like, yeah, we're a family and we have each other's back no matter what. And I really believe if I ever asked any of those people for help, they'd be there in a second. And that's just
Mm.
like so special.
God, it's so special because not only, you know, you've got the breath, you've got the cold, you've got all this repair happening, especially if there's folks that, experienced a lot of relational injuries.
Mhm.
Imagine, and as that woman thinking that, oh man, I don't want to be a burden, or maybe she grew up feeling that way, or maybe she was meant, made to feel that way in certain times in her life. And then all of a sudden to have people rallying around being like, no, girl, I got you. What a reparative experience. And that lives on inside of
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
That is a felt sense of being safe, of being
Absolutely.
cared for. It
Absolutely.
makes me pretty much tear up because what that's it.
Mhm.
That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I see this also in, sports or anywhere where we have to work together to do something, be part of a team, be part of something that's bigger than just us. that's what you're speaking to. And it's never just about us, ever.
No. I mean, we're all connected. We're all like a part of something so much bigger, and we're all working towards, I mean, at the end of the day, we all go in the ground. So it's just like, how can we help each other along the way? And like you said, the moment that she looked back at the group, she also said, I have a restored faith in men again.
Oh,
That's what she said. And it also made me really tear up when it happened, because I felt like, wow, this is like such deep healing, not only for her, also for the men in the group to feel like, just the mere thing of telling someone like, hey, it's no problem. Like, you're walking a little bit slower, like it's not a big
yeah.
deal. But it just creates so much trust and so much love and so much healing. And yeah, I feel like we need more of this in the world, just like to really be there for each other and have each other's backs.
Yeah. So beautiful. No, I'm not crying over here at all. It's
It's
just
okay.
like,
That was me. That was me as it was happening. I was like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. I love this.
uh, it's just so good. One of my favorite things in hosting this podcast and also in being in the healing arts is moments that where people remember their humanity and that we are in this together and that we can make such a difference in each other's lives. There's really no greater gift than that. So thank you for sharing that story and the
Yeah.
importance of, again, getting out there and doing things that maybe don't feel super comfortable.
Not at
But
all.
yeah.
0% comfortable. But in those moments, you
0%
find the
comfortable.
magic. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. In those moments, everything, all of the stress, all of the worry, all of the apprehension about doing the thing suddenly becomes worthwhile and has the
Absolutely.
ability to completely transform someone's life.
Completely, yeah. I want to just add, and because I'm thinking about like so many things are coming to my mind, but also like just the fact that when you go into the ice water, it doesn't matter who you are. You can
Mm.
be a millionaire, you
Yeah.
can be whomever, someone off the streets. It's like you go in the water and you remember, like, what I love seeing is just like we are all human.
That's
We
right.
all have the same struggles. And in that moment, when I look at someone in the eyes, I'm like, there's no difference. And I think it really restores that, like, I am you, you are me, we're all the
Mhm.
same, we all have struggles, and like we're just figuring it out. We're figuring it out together.
Yeah. Yeah. We're more the same than we are different.
Completely. We create the differences, but the
That's right.
truth is we're all really, really the same.
Yeah. Yeah. We all want to be able to provide for our families. We all want to feel happy. We all want to experience joy. We all want to be included, and
Yeah.
feel loved and respected. And those things don't go away.
No.
That's part of our journey here. So, uh,
Whew.
yeah. Woo, just taking a moment with all of that, all that life coming through. So I'm also wondering about, because I know that you're doing the Wim Hof retreats and instruction full time.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how, women's empowerment comes into that, because obviously you've got these transferable skills, so much to bring to the table. And so, yeah, I'm just wondering how that kind of comes in as a support
Mhm.
role. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, working with women has always been just like the thing that I've loved the most. I mean, for me, it's very obvious that growing up as a woman in my culture, I always felt like I saw so many amazing women around, but I also saw so many amazing women who really made themselves small and didn't allow the full expression of themselves. And yeah, for me, it was really the Wim Hof method that gave me the feeling that being a woman doesn't mean I need to be small. It actually is
Mm.
not that at all. That being a woman means being fully in my power. And that's such a part of the feminine also. And I saw so many women going in the water and beforehand saying, like, there's no way I can do this. Like, there's just no way. And then they do it. and they're like, wow, like I can do that. I can go in freezing cold water and be fine afterwards. Like that's amazing. Like there's so much power in that. And to see that over and over was like, for me, a moment of like, this is such a powerful tool that can help women really feel their strength, because
Mm,
I think intuitively women are so connected to their heart and
yeah.
we give so much love, but to also feel our strength and bring that in creates such a beautiful mix of the heart and the strength, you know?
Mm,
And so for me, it was clear, like when I started, I'm like, I want women to do this because I want to see women fully in their power and I want to be able to help women rise up, because
mm,
that's like, yeah, for me, it's just something that I love seeing so much, and I love helping women feel their power. And so I do Wim Hof retreats just for women.
nice.
And there's something very special about that, because we know that when women come together, there's just like a magic in that. It's also the same when men come together. I think the space is different and it allows for a different kind of healing. It also allows for a connection that I think is very important and also lost, that
Mm,
we also connect to what it means to be a woman. Because I personally didn't have any mentors growing up that, where I felt like this is what it means to be a woman.
yeah.
I didn't have that. And I personally want that for people, that they have mentors who are women who are like, this is what it means to be a woman. And we can create that together collectively, like what it means for us to be a woman.
Mhm.
And yeah, I get that in the Wim Hof retreats with other women. We think about it, we talk about it, but we also experience it like, oh, we can cry, we can hold each other, we can hear each other, and we can also be so strong. And it's just a beautiful mix. So that's one of the things that I offer. I also do like one on one coaching with women, which I
Mm,
love, because then we go more into the details. We go more into like, okay, what is it that's holding you back? And
yeah.
going into this inner child work, going into like, yeah, ways of releasing what's blocking you, why is it blocking you. And yeah, I also have a podcast that's just for women about women. And I also love that, because I just think, you know sharing stories is so powerful, and I'm grateful to you also for doing this, because it just gives a platform for voices to be shared, and for me to
Mm,
hear other women's stories. It's like, this is so inspiring. Like, I love hearing where you were and where you are now, and I wish I
mm.
had that when I was younger. So for me, it feels like I didn't have it, so I'm creating it.
That's right. That's right. And what a poignant thing to say. I didn't have it. I sought it out. I was on a seeking journey and now I can share it. Going on these adventures, leaving the home, and then coming back with all of these wisdom nuggets to share and to be that part of that guiding light for other folks. And as you said, same. I didn't have a lot of that growing up either. Which is probably part of the reason I left Saskatchewan so early. I was just like, nope,
Mhm.
this, I got to get out of here. I got to go and explore the world and just see new ways of being, and that's part of the thing I love so much about traveling is being
Mhm.
able to see and put myself in different environments when people are acting and being and just doing life different from the way that I do it.
Oh yeah.
Having my eyes open to all of the beautiful ways that humans do and be humans, in different environments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so enriching. And I
Hmm.
think it's so important also, like, that we have those experiences that are so different, because it shows us like, oh, there's so many ways of living life, you know?
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be one way. And also just like getting different impressions is, it's such a gift. We live in such a beautiful world. It's a gift to see it and be a part of it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. On that note, I'm just thinking about struggles, tough moments in life. And I'm wondering personally, if you feel like sharing, what's something that keeps you going when there's been times that where you felt like nothing is working?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think for me, there's such a strong energy inside of me that like in the dark moments I could feel like the light is still there.
Mm,
And it was just like also just trusting that there's something like, and holding on to that and not letting go for me was always, yeah, like as a kid, as a child, like I mean we all have our struggles,
yeah.
and in those moments just like knowing that there was something out there, I think it was like just a deep intuition, you know, a deep trust in life, and not like losing hope, but just knowing like there's something there, there's gotta be.
Mm,
And I'm so
mhm.
glad because it's always in those moments where the light gets dim that we forget the beauty in the world, we forget the kindness of people, and just
Yeah.
to like not lose that hope, I think is so important.
Mhm. Yeah, you're speaking to something really important that I can relate to. It's this, at times it was this, a pinky of light
Yes.
somewhere in me, but I knew it was there even though it was small.
Yeah.
So over time, just expanding on that and remembering, oh my God, I still have, even though I'm going through a rough time, even though I'm struggling, even though it feels like this will never end, it does. No
Absolutely.
thing is constant. The cold is not constant. Your breath, there's like this flow in and out. It's not constant. Nothing is constant. And so it's just this reminder that things can be different at any given moment. And if we're open to the possibility of things or having the availability for things to be different, that they can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like honestly, I'm so grateful that you bring it up because when I think about myself, like 10 years ago, you know, I could have never imagined to be in this place. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just so grateful that I kept going, that I kept
Yeah.
trusting, and that I kept, you know, looking because
Yeah.
yeah, it's like now I'm here and I'm like, wow, like if I could just tell that girl, like little Rachel, there's so much
Yeah.
out there, just like trust. Yeah. I mean, I think it would have brought her a lot more comfort.
That's
But
right.
I also, you know, it's also the struggles that make us who we are. And I think in
Mm-hmm.
every struggle you can always find, it's hard when you're in it, right? Because it's just it feels so intense. You can
Mm-hmm.
always find like afterwards looking back, like, wow, this was so good. It really like helped me grow and helped me learn and find my way.
Yeah. Yeah, little Rachel and little Lisa. They're eating ice cream
Yes.
on a beach right now. They're like, oh my God, this is the greatest.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that work also, as you're speaking to before, inner child work, people can often be so over it. And the fact is, any time that we, overcome an obstacle or reintegrate something, these timelines kind of just mush together. All of that work is inner child work. All of that work is inner teenager work. All of that work is inner 20s, inner 30s, however old you are. It's like all of those pieces are kind of
Yeah,
floating around simultaneously at the same time, or at least that's how I view it. And that's how I view healing that can happen in the present moment. We don't necessarily need to, cough up all of our different experiences. We don't need to, report back on them all the time. Sometimes it's just in these moments, in the
yeah,
cold, in the breath, in the, therapy room, in sitting one on one with another person that sees you, in these moments, we are essentially healing these younger parts of ourselves.
yeah. Yeah, it's so incredible, right? That like we can really heal these parts of ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, like you say, it's happening all the time.
All the
It's
time.
just all the time. We can reform, we can really, really bring deep, deep healing. It's really it's so cool to be human
I
because
know.
it's like
I know.
whenever it's amazing, you know, like yeah, you have it, and I mean it's just it's such a gift to be alive, and it's such a gift to have all these resources, and yeah, to have the ability to heal, like
Mm,
not only mentally or emotionally, but like also physically. Like
yeah.
we really have so much untapped potential as humans. There's so much that the body can do. And I think it's interesting how much we actually get in the way of it, because
Mm,
we think we know more, and we think like, oh, I could tackle this with the mind. But
that's
it's like, when you allow and you let go and you just let the body do, because the body knows so much, then it's like, whoo, there's deep healing, and it's beyond our comprehension, actually.
yeah. Yeah, I think that we're finally touching the surface of what it means to be in human bodies and what it means for the spirit and the soul and the body to come together, acting as one, and how we can really have this multi-dimensional conversation, with
Absolutely.
each other, with our nervous systems. It's even the research
Yes.
that's coming up, it's absolutely incredible. I don't even need to bring up the fact that most of what we're doing right now internally is completely not conscious to us. I talk about this lots, and it always blows my mind. I'm talking to you. I might be digesting my breakfast. I'm also
Really.
ovulating. I might have, there's so many things that are happening right now. My body is keeping me alive. It's in service to my health, it's in service
Yeah.
to this life.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about it's the story, because oftentimes it is. If bodies were just bodies without the story, things get a lot easier. The stories that we attach to and the meaning we make out of experiences, that's the renegotiation.
Yeah.
And when we're renegotiating those things, the body is like, oh, I don't have to keep on doing that same shit I've been doing. I don't have to do that
100.
same shit I've been doing. And it affects the state of the mind. It affects chronic pain. It changes so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our bodies are incredible, really. And yeah, I would love to share a story, because I'm just
Yes.
thinking like, I was recently in Peru, and I worked with plant medicine. And for me, it's
Mm,
also been something that's really, really helped me. And I
beautiful.
think it really sometimes takes like a deep, yeah, sometimes like we can work on something for a long time, but until the body really gets it, it
Yeah.
doesn't catch up, you know? And there were many incredible experiences that happened, but I had one where I realized I did like, it's called Bufo, and and basically I realized in those 10 minutes how much I hold on, and my body, how much my body is always tense. And I thought
Mm,
like, oh, I've done so much work in the cold, like I know how to let go, it's no problem. But in that moment, I felt on a cellular level like I'm holding on so much, and there's so much space for letting go. And I was like, wow, like my body, my stomach is tense. It's tense all the time. And
yeah.
I didn't even realize that I had this tension in my body until there was this feeling of what it could feel like to not have that. And
Wow.
now every day I'm like, wow, I can feel it more, and I can let it go more. And that
Mm,
brings so much more enjoyment in life. Just like by allowing the body to be how it should be in a normal state, and not clenching or holding on, which of course it just happens, because in life, you're like, things happen and you hold on, and then the body learns like, I should be in the state of holding on instead of being relaxed.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. Before I did any like somatic work, I swear my shoulders were up here. Like
Yeah.
I was just walking around like this. And I remember the first time I did an SE session, the practitioner across from me was like, are you aware of your shoulders right now? And I was like, no, no, what do you mean? And again, it's this awareness. It's this holy shit. When I can become aware of the way that my body braces, the way that
Yeah.
it's holding on, the way that it's protecting me, right? Closing in
Hmm.
on itself, then I can start to consciously open. I can
Yeah.
start to spend time with those parts every single day, like you're speaking to, and just be like, oh, yeah, stomach. Hey, and that's safety. Hey, I got you. I know you've been clenching. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize you're protecting and bracing. And now that I do, wow, I can support you. We can support each other. That conversation between
Yeah.
all parts, and how beautiful and how joyful. Oh my God, you're loving on your stomach. You know, I'm loving on my shoulders. I don't wear them like
Yeah.
earrings anymore. I don't wear those
Yeah.
things up on my ears. And so, but I did for a
Mhm.
long, long, long time. And I think that, it's important to notice these minimal changes that seem very small, but they're
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
They're everything.
They're
What
really
is
every.
what kind of space is being created in your stomach right now from not bracing and clenching? We don't
Yeah.
know. We just know that it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the little things, right? And just like you said, it's the awareness, and it's such a gift when we get these little insights of awareness.
Yeah.
And it's also for me, after that, I also really thanked this part of my body that clenched, because I
Mm-hmm.
also realized for a long time that was there to protect me.
That's
And
right.
that's also incredible that the body knows, like,
Yeah,
maybe in a time in my life that was necessary actually,
totally.
but it's no longer necessary. And that's the evolution, right? Like, we
Yeah.
change and we grow, and these parts of us, they actually can die, and we
Yeah.
can allow them to die, and we can make space for something new. And it's a beautiful process that happens in life, of shedding parts of ourselves that no longer are needed, which is
Yeah.
incredible actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was in the depths of chronic pain and someone told me, the body and your cells, they transform completely once a year or something like that. And I remember thinking, fuck you, pal. No, they don't. No, they don't. But at that time, I wasn't able to feel so much of my body. And the things that I was feeling were unpleasant. And
Mhm.
so, and that kept me up here a lot of the times. It kept me in my mind. And I still remember the first time that I realized that all of the meaning making, I had a meaning for everything. Oh, well, my pain's back. So it must have been because the
Mhm.
bird shit on the grass outside and I stepped in it. I'm not
Yeah,
kidding.
that's
I
wonderful.
needed that. I needed there to be meaning or things didn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
And I also realized there's nothing wrong with needing meaning,
Yeah.
and it was distracting me away from being with my body.
Mm.
Again, this idea of being up in my head felt more safe than being in my body for a very long time. And it's a really hard concept to grasp. That's why talking about it only does so much. But when you have
Mhm.
that experience, like you
Mhm.
were speaking to, of my tummy tensing or my
Mhm.
shoulders, this, when you actually have a felt sense of that, that's when change can start to happen. Your awareness changes. And
Yeah.
therefore, your cells start getting different messages. So that whole, oh, yeah, my cells are changing, but I keep feeding them the same information.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Yeah.
feeding them different information. I love
Mhm.
you. Holy shit. Thank you. All of these things. Whereas before it was more like, again,
Mhm.
and that's a very different thing to be feeding into this consciousness that we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what a amazing story also that you have. And to be able to look at that now, it's I mean, really congratulations to you for coming
Yeah.
so far
Thank
and being
you.
able to have this connection now with your body, and also
Mm,
realizing, yeah, that you can reframe, you can change something.
yeah. Yeah. And it's available. If there's one
For
thing that I'm
everybody.
always on the side of, yeah, like you said before, everybody can do it. And
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily mean that all pain is going to be eradicated and all this, right? I personally am an optimistic person and feel, yeah, I think it could be true at some point. But as it sits right now, things can just become easier incrementally. That's how I
Absolutely.
experienced it. Oh, that pain's no longer there. Holy crap, this just feels normal for me to not be in pain. Wow, imagine that, or the next part of that could be, oh, I don't feel so self conscious in all of my relationships, my friendships, whatever. When the body starts to relax, everything kind of starts to relax, or at least that's how it's been in my experience. When we're not bracing against life, we're not
Yeah.
necessarily bracing against each other either.
Absolutely. I love that that's how you put it, right?
Mm.
It's allowing life and letting go more and more. And then we can start really peeling back the layers. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I really think, our state is actually healthy.
Hmm.
We should actually be healthy. But
Yeah.
then, things happen and life happens. And then it's just like, okay, how can we peel back the layers more and more and more so we
Yeah.
can actually get in touch more and more with ourselves? And the process, like you said before, is not always comfortable because it
Mm-mm.
sometimes means looking at shadows and looking at pain and giving them space so that eventually you can let it go and
Yeah.
then bring in something else, right? Something new.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it, it makes me think like it's kind of similar. Like sometimes I have people with the cold and they're really fighting it. Like they're really like, oh, it's so cold. Like you see it in their body posture. They're holding, they're clenching,
Hmm.
they cannot let go. And it's like this thing with life, like I want to control it. I want it to be a certain way,
That's right.
And then there's like suddenly like a shift where they realize like, okay, I'm cold, but actually like I can reframe this as
Mm.
it's a sensation and
Yeah.
it's not pain, it's just a sensation.
That's
And what
right.
does that do to me? And how does that feel for me? And then there's like, wow, I can actually be in this. And it's just like life, like a reframe of instead of fighting, just like allowing it and also allowing the intensity, but finding ways to integrate the intensity and integrate the pain and integrate the joy and the ecstasy and also having people hold you with it. Because like you said, we're nervous systems and we also need other nervous systems to be there to help us regulate and help us find that state then which is regulated and feels amazing.
That's right. Yeah. Carrying someone up a freezy, icy, cold hill or mountain, right? Another
Exactly.
another nervous system was helping that woman do that.
Many nervous
Many
systems
nervous systems
working
were helping.
together. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Receiving support, that
Yes.
was another big thing. This idea of having to do everything on our own because it feels like it might be too much for someone else,
Hmm.
you
I
know?
think that's like such a beautiful topic. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I could talk forever about it
Me
because
too.
I also struggled so much with receiving.
God, me
And it was
too.
also why I struggled so much, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you allow it, it's also the realization that, I recently felt this inside myself that I love giving. I love being there
Mm,
for people. It's such a gift for me. And
yeah.
it's so unfair to not let someone else do that for me
That's
because it's
right.
also a gift for them.
Yes. Oh, I love that you said that. I was having a conversation with someone and it was exactly that. She wants certain things to be a certain way and she loves giving. And then when her partner is like, "Oh, baby, I just want to give you a massage." It's like, "No, it's okay. I need to give this to you because it's such a joy for me." And I've definitely been there myself. Now I'm like, "Bring it. I know how much of a gift this is for you to be able to give to me. I love being my thing is massage. And so my
Mhm.
husband, once a month, he gives me the Tim special. That sounded really bad, but it's kind of what it is.
Sounds amazing.
It's not just once a month. It's every few days. I'm like, can you just do that thing, rub my shoulders like you do?
Want the
And
Tim
it's,
special now.
yeah, it's like, can I have just the Tim special, a bunch?
Mhm.
Whereas there would have been a time in my life where I was, I wouldn't even have asked for that, even though it was something I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can really resonate. And I think also it has a lot to do with trusting, right? Because to
Yes.
receive, you need to feel safe. And if
That's
you
right.
don't feel safe, the body it cannot allow it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful that you do that with your husband. You also have a practice of receiving where we just say, okay, like 1 hour just for you, which usually ends up
Mm,
being like 3 hours, which is amazing.
yes.
And to allow yourself just to receive, it's a gift for both people and it's a
Yeah.
gift for the body.
Yeah. Amen to the body and all the gifts and all of the
Yes.
things. So I wanted to come back to this because I'm just remembering that at the beginning we spoke just briefly on menstruation and cold dipping during that time. I'm wondering what your thoughts are, what the
Mhm.
kind of, I guess it depends on each person. I just couldn't imagine someone wanting to do that during that time of the month, but to each their own.
No, it's yeah. I actually was questioning this in
Mm.
myself because there's like a standard protocol,
Yeah,
and I felt like, okay, standard protocol, cool, but also our bodies are all different and women have
that's right.
crazy cycles, which changes the temperature of the body. And so if people are interested, I actually have a podcast with Dr. Miria, and
Amazing.
she goes into this specific, but to give you like a general idea, when we're on our period, our temperature, our core temperature is actually lower than usual. So some
That's
people
right.
who don't want to get pregnant, they're testing their temperature.
Yeah.
And so you're just much more sensitive. So it makes sense that in that time, the cold is going to feel more cold. And also, when you're having your
Mm.
period, you're also losing a lot of blood, which has a lot of energy,
That's
iron,
right.
right?
Yep.
And when you warm up from the cold, something we maybe don't think about is it requires a lot of energy, a lot of
Hmm.
energy. So people who have like chronic fatigue, for example,
That's
or,
right.
you know, it's actually really difficult to practice the cold because the body needs so much energy to warm up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think 2 days before your
Hmm.
period and your period, and maybe a day after you start menstruating,
Mm.
be gentle,
Yeah.
you know? And it's also so important because the method is actually to bring awareness to your body and how your body feels. And
Hmm.
so it's amazing that you feel that because it's a clear indication that you're really connected. And it's a clear indication like right now, this isn't the right medicine for me.
Hmm.
I need to do something else. And there are other practices like the doctor actually suggested kniping, which in Germany is a really big thing, which is when you like, for example, you could just put your hands in the cold or just your
Mm.
feet in the cold
Yeah.
or like take a cold shower, but also you could just take a rest because the body also needs it. So I think it's really important not to just use tools to use them,
That's right. Thank you
but
for
that the
saying that.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course, but that the tools should serve you. And
Yeah.
so being aware of where
Mm.
you are, how your body is, how you're feeling is it's really important, especially as women when we have these fluctuations. I know for some women, and this is something that I've heard from a lot of the people that I've worked with that have really intense cramps during their period, they
Hmm.
actually find that the cold really helps them because we don't exactly know what's happening, but it can relieve like really intense cramps. But again, it depends on the woman.
That's
It
right.
depends on your body. So it sounds like for you during that time, it's just the cold is not, it's not working for you, and
Yeah.
respect that.
Totally. And for me, it's not even just the cold. It is very much the cold. It's like wet
Mhm.
anyway, like wet
Yeah.
anything. I don't want to be, I don't want to be in water really. I know some people enjoy taking baths and stuff, on
Yeah.
that time of the month, but I'm not that person. Give me a heating cloak. I have a heating cloak,
Oh, I
which is
love that.
hilarious. Oh my God. It's so funny. I should have worn it today. It's a little bit
I would
chilly
love
out.
to see it.
But yeah, it wraps around my shoulders and it comes all the way down my back and comes around my stomach. I got it on
Amazing.
Amazon. This is the best purchase I've ever made in my life. So you can find me while I'm menstruating back there with my heating cloak on and just like a cup of tea, you know?
I just have the image in my head. It's very cute. I can
Yeah.
imagine. And that's self-love right there, like
That's
you know
right.
what your body needs,
Yeah.
and that's perfect. Sometimes you just need to go into your cave with your cloak and be super cozy.
That's right. Go into the cave
Yeah.
with the cloak. I love that. Well, Rachel, I mean, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today. I'm so grateful we got to hang out. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat about so many different, really important topics. It's just such an honor to share this space with you.
Thank you so much. The feeling
Mm.
is mutual, and yeah, thank you for doing this work. It's so important that we talk about these things and that you've had such an incredible journey yourself, and I'm
Mm.
very curious to hear more about it. So I hope
Mhm.
also to have you on my podcast to
Ooh,
hear
a
about your
tradesy.
journey.
I would love
Yes.
all of that. I would love
Yeah.
it. So, yes. And before we sign off, though, I want to let people know, our listeners know where they can find you. What's the best hub to hang out with you and be part of your world?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my name, Rachel.Babaganov, or I have a website. It's the same. It's rachelbabaganov.com. It's very simple, very easy to find. Yeah, I have workshops and retreats going on basically all the time. So
Great.
if you just check out my website, you can find it and come join us. I'd love to have you there. Be really fantastic to get in the cold and breathe together.
Get in the cold and breathe together. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes so everyone has access. Well, enjoy your rest day.
Thank you so
And
much.
we will talk again and continue this conversation on your podcast on another day.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it. All the
Mm,
love to you.
you as well. Bye for now.
Bye.
As always, thank you so much for listening. Life is busy, so it means even more to me that you are here. Listen, we've got so many great episodes coming up, so please make sure that you follow along on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you are listening. And if you appreciate these episodes, please do us a favor and leave a review and share the show with anyone you think this episode would benefit. See you again next week. Bye for now.